can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. Right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. And before I introduce Kevin Miller of Grow, I like to mention, Kevin, a few past episodes people should check out. And, you know, Kevin helps a lot of D2C brands, actually. And so I was like, what if D2C brands have been interesting guests? And so I had the founder of RX Bar, and this was pre-selling to Kellogg. And he talked about the journey of making the first bars in his kitchen, and then obviously growing. And he sold to Kellogg, I think, for, you know, I don't know if it's verified or not, but it was online. So everything online is true, right, Kevin? So it was like correct, over $600 million. And the founder of Quest Nutrition, Yes Bar. I like bars, like Truth Bar. So like I like interviewing the same people and the companies I admire. So I'm like, oh, this Truth Bar is delicious. It's got probiotics. I'm going to have the founder on. I just love having it. So people can check out that and many, many more at InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And we do that by helping you run your podcast. You know, for me, Kevin, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at a way to give to my best relationships. And one of those ways over the past decade, I have found to have the people and companies I admire on to profile them and shout to the rooftops what they do and to tell other people what they do. And then when I'm going to introduce, you know, I probably make 5 to 30 introductions a day. Now I have an episode to go, hey, you should meet Kevin. And by the way, I interviewed him. You should check out what their company does. Then I have an episode that can point people to that. So if you are out there and you've thought about podcasting, I think you should. If you have a business, I believe you should have a podcast, period. If you have questions, we're here for you. You can go to rise25.com, email us. You can go to the contact page, and we are quick to respond, and we'll try and answer anything that you have or want. So without further ado, Kevin Miller is co-founder of Grow. And by the way, it's cool. I love your domain, Kevin, because it's not your typical, it's GR0.com. Yep. And a 3-letter number domain is hard to come by. So you may have to tell the story of getting that, but it's GR0.com. They help scale D2C and technology companies with growth marketing frameworks. He learned these frameworks working at Google and a lot of other startups, and they have helped companies like Legends Boxing, MuteSix, Pumpkin Care, Adquick, you know, Advantage, Rent a Car. There's so many out there. But Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I've heard the other podcast, so I'm in good company.
You are in good company. And I want to talk a little bit more about what you do at Grow, but I want to start with, you know, we were talking about what's top of mind, and for your company, it's always top of mind is hiring people and just serving the good people that you have. And you learn some of these things, you know, keeping people happy, not just today, but for the long haul. And you've worked for some companies that really do care about culture, and they put steps in place, and you've learned from those companies. So I wanted to start the conversation there of what were some of the things, we could start with Google, that you learned at Google that you now do with Grow.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I spent 2 years at Google early on in my career. I worked at a startup right out of college, and after that ended, I went to Google. I was fortunate enough to have that experience. Number one is training. Google trains people for, you know, longer and more thoroughly than I've had at any other company. Now, of course, they have the luxury to do that because they're so profitable. They don't need you to go straight to work for them. But that was amazing. I saw the value in being able to. It gives the new employees confidence that they can do their job.
How did they train you? What was effective?
A lot of interactive training and working with real live customers that didn't spend a lot of money with Google on the ad platform, but still, you know, needed attention. And we had a lot of leniency with those people. So a coffee shop would spend, $10 a day, and I would talk to the coffee shop owner, and I would understand their business needs, and I would figure out, you know, what campaigns would work for, getting more people to call their phone, which is where they got a lot of business. And so it taught me relationship building. It taught me how to be responsible, on time, think about what the customer is asking and listen to them, and then recommend a campaign that would meet their needs. So there was a combination of that, as well as their own training programs. So like getting certified in Google Analytics, getting certified in their AdWords course, and just being fully immersed in shadowing calls of other people. So I would be able to silently listen in to calls that had happened with much larger brands, Lyft, Uber, Walmart. And that was, I learned a lot through osmosis that way. And so that's what we do at Grow, actually, is we have our new team members listen in for 2 months at a time when they get started. And we have our own proprietary training programs now, as well as publicly available training programs that we use. And we just couple the both of those together.
So someone will come on, you will train them on, as Google does, go through this, training program that we have, this online training program, whatever it is, certification. Then they may shadow someone and listen in on calls, whether live or recorded. And then they kind of get their feet wet with clients. Is there I'm curious how the mentorship works. Is there someone over your shoulder as you're working with them, or by the time you're done shadowing, they just kind of release you?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It depends on the people that we're connecting our new hires with. I try to foster a culture of, helping people out with the expectation of nothing in return. Just passing on what was given to you. I think that's the best, most altruistic way to be for our employees. I try to hire for that quality. I think that experienced hires who are in a great standing with Grow should want to spend their time, helping other people. And so there is that element. And then there's a senior manager that manages all of our account managers and our SEO specialists. And they don't just go off into the wild. That manager is overseeing their calls and making sure their work is satisfactory. And that's typically how we do it. And then they all have a direct line of communication to me. And I believe it or not, I'm still checking in on all of their work to make sure that it's done properly. And I look for areas where I can give constructive feedback.
So were you were at the Mountain View location for Google?
I was at the Mountain View location, commuting I lived in San Francisco, but I would commute down to Mountain View every day. Yep.
I feel like, Kevin, if I worked at Google, I don't know if I'd leave. There's so many perks. And what was that decision to eventually leave Google?
It was multifaceted. I come from an entrepreneurial background. My dad's an entrepreneur. My brother's an entrepreneur. And
what did your dad do?
My dad was actually the CEO of Budget Rent-A-Car. He started with one location in Ormond Beach, Florida, which is where I grew up. That's why we live there. And one location led to another, and he was able to acquire enough franchises to have a majority position in them. And then he took them public in 1997. And
that's pretty amazing.
It is. Yeah. And so I thought that experience that he went through was, of course, very difficult, but also really, really rewarding. And what he's always tried to teach me was that it's about the journey of entrepreneurship, not necessarily the end result. It's not about making millions of dollars and all that. It's about enjoying yourself in the process, success or fail. And truthfully, for myself, I wanted to see, what am I made of? Can I make it on my own? I didn't want to get into car rental because that was his thing. And so I thought, let me get into technology and online businesses. And I admired the people who sold companies to Google that I would meet on Google's campus and play basketball with them. And I thought it was a more intriguing story. But it's funny. I had a dinner with my old teammate at Google last night, and I actually implored him to stay at Google for 30 years because he's on a great trajectory there and makes a bunch of money and has found fulfilling things to do. And, it just kind of depends on what personality you have. The grass isn't always greener. The first few years out of Google were not pretty. No one was asking me to speak on podcasts. I can tell you that.
I know. I visited a friend who worked at LinkedIn in Chicago, and they had a full floor. They had breakfast, lunch, and dinner available. They had, game rooms. And I was like, I think if I started here, I don't know if I'd ever leave, even though I do have that entrepreneur. So,
I still want to go back and work there. When I'm done with this, if I was to get married and have kids, I want to go work at Google every day and try to, get a job, but hopefully they'll accept me back. What
other lessons did you learn from your dad growing up? So that was one, I don't know if you saw him, it's easier said than done sometimes. Like just enjoy the journey. Like that's sometimes easy to say, but harder to do,
Yeah. And none of it's directly verbal. He's not a great communicator. So he's not sitting me down saying, hey, I learned this. I want to pass it on to you.
Right.
It's more through talking with his friends, and they tell me what it's like working with him. Or, I'll overhear. I used to overhear him on phone calls all the time. And I saw how he treated people that worked with him, and how he was very stern but respectful to everybody, and always wanted to make people feel good. But when people tried to take advantage of him, or cut a bad deal with him in business, he would let them know that that's not acceptable. And I've learned how to like flex that muscle. When you become successful with your business, a lot of people want a piece of it, or want to slow you down and want to distract you. And I've started to see that side of the business world. And I'm imploring everyone on our team to just stay focused and not get distracted with any of that. And remember what it was like in the first few months building Grow, and keep that mentality as long as you can.
It's amazing. Kevin, you probably from an early age were kind of, like you said, learn from osmosis, was infused these, leadership principles are, and that's something that, when you're running a company, there's so many different moving pieces with Grow. And then, oftentimes, at least the people I'm interviewing, start to kind of try and improve their leadership skills later on, because they didn't go, I want to be a leader, I want to start this company.
Yeah.
What were some things that you remember either from your dad or learning from people at Google or Spire or Open Listings of, leadership wise?
Well, I think that I've really tried to perfect the art of behaving in a way that makes people want to work hard for you. I had a great CEO at Open Listings. His name was Judge Schoenholtz, and he was very well liked by the staff. And when we saw him being stressed during fundraising, or, just a little bit out of sorts because he was so much pressure he was carrying on his shoulders, people would go up to him and say, hey, how can I help you? I really care about you personally. And how can I help you? And the current CEO of Opendoor, which is now a public company, his name's Eric Wu, he used to, before I left Opendoor, my job was to go to speak to customers in Phoenix, Arizona every weekend. I went 8 straight weekends trying to get customer feedback, and it wasn't the most fun thing to do on my weekend. I was working like 7 days a week, but he showed up and he would meet me at 8 a.m. at a random house waiting for people to come view the house and talk to them. And, he might've been worth several $100 million at that time. And you would never know. And he was there with me taking detailed notes, acting like he's an intern. And so I saw that and I said, wow, I respect that a lot. And then just, at home, like with my mom was a homemaker. She, never, she actually was working at Avis and Budget in the early days with my dad. She actually is the one who got him his first job at Avis, 19.
Wow.
Yeah, which is funny. But she kind of taught me that, no matter who you're meeting with, everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time. And I used to get nervous and make it into a big thing. Like one of the big things that I think has helped me be successful so far is reaching out to people that are in great positions and asking them how they did it. And she kind of taught me not to be afraid to reach out. Just take your chance. Who knows? They might just respond.
The worst thing is they don't, or say no, right? I mean,
exactly. And that's how I got my first internship at Living Social when I was in college. That's how I actually got into Georgetown. I wrote a letter to the dean and said, hey, my SAT score is 400 points below what it says on your website. But here's the things I'll do to make, to make, my mark. And so that type of stuff I think I've learned, but I just observe great leaders who are respected by their peers. And I try to emulate that. I don't raise my voice to my employees. I don't bark orders at them. I don't do anything like that. If I want respect, I give respect.
I love that. Yeah. You were copyrighted at heart, getting into college, I guess. Living Social, is that still around?
No, they got acquired by Groupon.
Oh, Groupon. Okay. I
Yeah,
was
but
like,
that
being
was
in
the,
Chicago at the time, I saw the early days of Groupon, when they were
of
like
course.
10 staff. So you really saw the rise of Groupon.
It was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. My internship was there. I was a sophomore in college, and Living Social was hiring 10 people a day. And I couldn't believe it. I was, mind blown, and everyone was so young and excited, and they were moving at a breakneck speed, like something I had never seen before. They were launching in new cities every week. I was going, traveling to help with that. It was the most inspiring experience I had ever had. And then my peers were going to work, on Wall Street, and I still don't know how to tie my own tie. So I thought, I thought I'm probably not suited for that life. Let me go try to do something more interesting for me. And that's
Yeah.
how I fell into it.
Talk about, we talk about Google and, open listings and Opendoor. What do you do at your company that you've taken to make sure the staff is happy?
We do an all hands meeting every week, no matter what, rain or shine. And I have each department head speak and let everyone know what's going on at the company. I think when I got to Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin were still doing all hands meetings every Friday in person. And so I would go and watch them speak, 20 yards away from me. And they had 50,000 employees at the time.
Wow.
And that same live broadcast was sent to every single office in the United States. It was fascinating. And everyone watched it. And it was
how long was it usually?
It was about an hour.
Yeah.
And they would give updates across the entire company that, affected you or didn't in fact affect you directly. And it made it feel very inclusive, made it feel like, hey, we want to let you know what the self-driving unit is doing, even though you're selling ads, before it gets printed up anywhere. We want to make sure that you understand that this is a close-knit Google family, and we're going to share things here that aren't shared publicly. And when I got to open listings, the same type of thing was done, and same at Opendoor. And so I decided to continue it here. And I think people appreciate being in the know, and it makes them more bought into the greater mission of what you're trying to accomplish as an organization.
Love it. Anything else to mention? So all hands meeting.
One of the things that was really prevalent that unfortunately is a challenge due to COVID was eating together. We did that every day at Google. Same thing with Opendoor and open listings, and the company would provide lunch. And if they couldn't afford it, they wouldn't do it every single day, but team members would still go out and spend time together. And we've struggled to find a way to there's no real way to replace that, right? But we try to do a lot of culture and team building events, and we're trying to save money right now for a physical team offsite as soon as it's safe. So every month we're saving as much as we can to be able to pay for that and pay for people's flights and get them into one central location. And if anyone is in the same geographic region, like one of our employees just volunteered to have another one stop by his house in Boston and meet for the first time. And it just does so much for camaraderie and team morale and things like that.
There's nothing like breaking bread together.
Nothing like it. You build what I call personal capital with people. So, for example, like I was driving into work today and my car broke down, and my assistant has COVID. And so, one of our other team members reached out to me and said, hey, I know this week has got to be really tough because Leanne is out with COVID, and I know you're late because of your car. Can I call AAA for you and see if we can get someone to the office to help your car? And that's not in her job description, but that's the type of person she is. And we have a strong relationship that she wants to do that for me because we like each other, and I would do the same for her. And so that's what I'm trying to foster, that I think a lot of companies just miss. They think, oh, this person just works for me. That's the antithesis of what I try to instill in our people.
Kevin, talk about the hiring process, because that kind of starts with the hiring process, attracting and choosing great people. So what does the hiring process look like?
Well, it started with, my twin sister's a recruiter, and she's, really, really great at it. She worked at multiple tech companies. So I really started by picking her brain. But I got very fortunate with a referral from one of our advisors. His name is Carter Room. He runs M13, which is a a venture capital fund in Los Angeles. And he sent me a guy named Aaron Friedman. And Aaron Friedman is our director or head of people. And he built an amazing, HR practice and recruiting practice. So we actually use a personality test called AccuMax. And for every single position that we have, we know what the ideal personality traits are to be successful in that role. And so we have every single person take that. We also have 5 different people that the candidate needs to speak to before they are accepted into Grow. And it has to be a unanimous decision, which is what I took from Google as well. Google does not hire anyone unless everyone on the hiring committee votes yes. If there's one no, they don't do it. And they have the ability to be that selective. We've chosen to do the same. And actually, one of the questions at Google is, would you want to go out to coffee or a meal with this person outside of work? The answer is no, they don't get hired. So we do something similar to that as well. And then, we have a background check. We have a take-home test. And we try to have as many team members speak to, our candidate as possible. And it's not always just like a grilling of questions trying to evaluate them. It's also us selling them. I feel like it's a two-way street. But our whole process takes about 3 weeks, start to finish, which I think is fast, but not too fast. And it allows us to check references and really be thorough with with our hiring process. And we just make sure that we don't miss any calls. We're always on time. And we treat every single candidate with a level of respect that as if they already work here. I think that goes a long way.
I want to hear, Kevin, more about Grow, what you do, and also just to start with how you met your co-founder.
Yeah, so Grow is an SEO agency. We're focused exclusively on organic search. And so that means we write blog posts for our clients, helping them rank number 1 for questions that relate to their products. So for example, we have an amazing client called Kalumi Beauty, and they sell marine collagen bars. And I bring that up because I know you're a bar guy. You like RX and Quest. So we'll write a 1,500 word piece on what is marine collagen and what are its benefits. And so
it sounds right up my alley. I'm gonna have to check
it does. I'll send you some after this call. I'll tell them that you're interested. And so that's we have 3 prongs to what we do. Number 1 is content writing. We recruit writers from universities. When I was at Georgetown, I needed a little bit of help with my long form essays. So I went to the writing center. And when I got to the writing center, I realized just how smart and amazing those tutors are who are volunteering their time to help other students. So that's actually where we recruit from now. Those types of people, regardless of what university they attend, they're typically amazing storytellers. And we just need to step in and help them format their posts for SEO. And it's been working well. So that's a big differentiator for us. Secondly, we act as a mini PR firm where we get press mentions and press hits for our clients. So those result in backlinks for our clients, which is really important to build trust and authority to your website. And so we get our clients featured in news outlets all over the place. And then lastly, we do on-page optimization, which makes sure that your website is fast and all your web pages are titled something unique that tells Google what's being sold on your page. And then my co-founder and I, we're both sober. We've both been sober for 5+ years. We had our own independent struggles with drugs and alcohol. And so we met in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not sure how much you know about that, but typically people go to AA meetings, a few 5-6 times a week or something in that neighborhood to stay sober and be emotionally sober. And so that's how we met about 4.5 years ago. And we both discovered that we have like a unique passion for SEO specifically, which is a very
What was he doing at the time when you met him?
Well, he was just leaving rehab.
I mean, was he doing stuff in SEO or?
Yeah,
or...
so he has a much longer career in SEO specifically. So he was doing SEO for Jack Dorsey for a period of time at Square. He was doing it for a guy named Mark Gardner, who ran a cash advance company. So he had done a lot in like the finance space, but he's been exclusively focused on SEO for 10+ years. I was more of a I was focused on Facebook ads, Google ads. And then at Open Listings, I really fell in love with organic search and competing against Zillow. And so he actually taught me a lot of what I know from on an SEO basis. Our first year meeting each other, I would call him every single day, multiple times a day, asking questions about SEO. And he was my number one mentor, taught me everything I know, along with all the courses I did. And I launched my own sites to learn on my own. And so we decided together, hey, let's make a run at this. We both had 4 or 5 consulting clients while we were working full-time jobs. And we thought, we think we're a pretty formidable team together. He's an amazing salesperson. And I, think I'm good at the people management and other aspects of the business, and we complement each other well. And that's what we decided to do.
That's amazing. So, it's interesting. What have you taken from, AA and into the business, because there's a lot of principles that, probably overlay into just life in general.
Yeah, they do. It's a good rubric for life. Honesty is a big principle, being honest in all your affairs. We try to deliver bad news fast. If our campaigns are not working for our clients, we'll let them know ahead of time rather than them letting us know. Try to work something out and be forthright and transparent with them. A lot comes down to we're very calm, cool, and collected. No work emergency is the same as real emergencies in real life. So, I had a sponsee. I was just talking about it this morning. He overdosed and he died 2 years ago. And I was at Open Listings when I got the call from his girlfriend at the time. And so that's a real emergency to me. It
puts things in perspective a bit.
It puts things in perspective. And I know that could happen to me. That could happen to my partner. And so we're coming at work thinking these aren't hard problems. We've been to hell and back. We've seen hard problems. We're grateful for the problems we have on the work front. And so I think we come to this with a different perspective. And when anyone on our team has some sort of hardship like that, we cover for them times 1,000. And actually, when I was at Google, my first week, my best friend had cancer, and he ultimately ended up passing away as well. My boss at Google came to me and he said, take a month off. We don't care. And I said, but I'm just starting here. You need me to be, selling Google ads. He said, no, we don't. Go back to Florida, spend time with him. We're going to pay you the entire time. Come back when you're ready. And I thought, wow, I'll work here forever. I'll do anything for that manager, And so that's how I treated here too. One of our recent employees, his mother struggling with her health. My partner and I said, be as gone as long as you want. And that's just how we do it.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Kevin. Yeah. And I don't know how to follow that, but I want to follow with Marine Collagen bars.
Sure.
But what's the site? What's the website?
BloomiBeauty.com.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I see it right here.
And it's two amazing women based in Marina del Rey. They're former models. They realized that their skin, they need something to brighten their skin, and they're having trouble with, keeping their skin clear. And they started the same way that the RX Bar team did, and building formulations in their kitchen, and they brought their product to life.
It looks delicious. The almond butter chocolate chip.
Oh, yeah. And for me, it was these two women, Chrissy and Jayla, they were my first actual, consulting client that helped me on my path to grow. And now they're a grow client, and we've hired, one of their content writers that worked with Kalumi, and now she works at Grow. It's been just an amazing experience. And they are really persistent entrepreneurs, and they're, I hope they really can take over the collagen space.
I love it. Yeah. Collagen is really healthy, and a lot of collagen, especially if people don't want to, eat something that comes from like a meat product, because a lot of the collagen comes from cows. I had never heard of marine collagen, actually. So it's pretty cool.
It's a unique type of collagen, as I understand it. And we've been ultra successful with them. They probably get 1,000 clicks a day from organic search across, 50 blog posts that we've written over the past year.
Yeah.
And and they outrank vital proteins for many, many, many queries, which is why I love SEO. The little guy can always compete if you are more thorough and more detailed in your answers. Yeah.
I can watch them mixing this chocolate chip cookie dough thing all day long. And,
exactly.
I want to eat it. What's an example of a popular article?
Let me see if I can take a look here. I'm just
looking as you look for that. I just always love, this, at least in the almond butter chocolate chip one. I love how the first ingredient's like almond butter, and it seems like all these ingredients are pretty healthy as far as almond protein goes, and almond butter and MCT oil. So I'm down. They have a new customer, and they're in Austin, Texas.
I think
maybe where it's manufactured.
They're in Marina Del Rey.
I got it. Okay.
But they've kind of been fully remote now since everything has gone on with COVID. But yeah, I'm still pulling this up here. Let's take a look at some of their best.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about some because I want to talk about them. I'd love to talk about pumpkin care a little bit too. But so you had me with bar, so we'll go with this for a second.
If you Google marine collagen versus bovine, that's another type of collagen.
Yeah.
BOVINE. They rank number 1 for that. And the title tag is marine collagen better than bovine collagen? And typically, if you're really into collagen, you're gonna try to see which type, has the benefits that you're looking for. Vital proteins ranks number 10 for the same query. So that just kind of shows you again, if you write your articles very thoroughly, you can outrank other people. They rank number 1 for collagen for acne. They rank number 5 for how long does it take for collagen supplements to work, which is a longer tail query that people, want to know. People want to know, can you take too much collagen? They rank number 4 for that. And so that in essence shows you, or actually they're number 3 for that. So, and they're behind Healthline, which is, tough to beat. So that kind of shows you how we think about our blog writing and our content marketing is we're answering questions that consumers have related to collagen. And then we're positioning Kalumi and we're saying, hey, you're looking to reduce the acne on your face, try marine collagen. It has like a specific, ingredients that help with that.
Sign me up. Yeah, I was looking at the article here, collagen versus fish oil. How do collagen and fish oil work together and what are their benefits, which is kind of a cool, because we know my background is in biochemistry and as a chiropractor. So I geek out on this stuff and there's a lot of research on these things. So like health, positive research on them. So that's really cool. Talk about Pumpkin Care.
Yeah, so Pumpkin Care, they are a pet insurance company, one of the leaders in the space, and they have got amazing plans that they offer to new and existing pet owners. And basically, we did something very similar with them. They started with us. They were getting about 10 or 15,000 unique visitors a month, and now they're getting close to 400,000.
Wow.
And the whole organization has really rallied around SEO. Because they have started to drive a lot of policies directly from organic search. And what we've done is we've answered all the different questions that people have about preventative care for their pet. And they are top of mind when people are Googling literally anything about cats or dogs or any type of pet. And so we are hitting them early in their consideration phase, even before they have the pet. So we will write articles about, the best, hyperallergenic dogs, which is like a really topical thing right now. And
that's what we searched for.
yeah, exactly. People don't, that's what my girlfriend and I searched for too. So, we do really extensive keyword research to see what prospective and current pet owners are Googling online.
You can hit them in different parts of their cycle or their buying cycle.
Exactly. And we really go deep. So for example, we rank number 1 for cat years to human years. There's 52,000 people a month that search for that.
What is it again?
Cat years to human years.
Okay.
And we rank number 1 for non-shedding dogs. We rank number 1 for can dogs eat watermelon? And so, there is a
what can dogs eat, Kevin? Do you feed your dog people food, or what kind of dog do you have?
No, I have a mini golden doodle.
Okay.
Mini golden doodle. Yeah.
So no
And,
people food.
very limited unless
Okay.
I'm a first time dog owner. I didn't grow up with a
Okay.
dog. My girlfriend did. She grew up with a golden retriever, and I'm scared to give my dog anything that he's actually sitting right here taking a nap. I'm scared to give him anything that might make him sick. I don't want to be responsible for that. I love him too much. So I try to keep him on a strict.
I'm just curious
diet.
from your research, because you guys probably do a lot of research on this.
Oh, of course.
So what does it say about watermelon? Well, we have to just point people to read the article, but
yeah. We have to point people to read the article because that will be better. Yeah. So yes, you can, but you want to lose this. You don't want to have them eat the seeds. So that's the little nuance. Now, the other thing that's important is every article that we write, whether it's in the collagen space or in the pet space, it's authored by an expert in that subject matter. And that's one really key component that you can't miss if you're trying to be good at SEO and content writing. Google is looking for that trustworthiness factor. And so you talk about being a chiropractor, and I've gone through a lot of stuff with my lower back. I had a herniated disc at
you're
one
too young
point.
for that stuff.
I know, it was a lot of basketball
Sports related
at a young age. Yeah. And so I would only trust you. I wouldn't trust my sister, who's a tech recruiter, to tell me how to fix my back. I would trust someone with your background because you went to school for it. And so the same methodology applies. We make sure that every single article is authored by and reviewed by someone who has credentials in that subject matter. And that goes a long, long way for both the reader and for Google.
I'm curious, Kevin, when you work with clients, you also have to set expectations, right? It's like, it's not going to, especially with SEO stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a lot of work. You can't just start doing it and like a week later you start ranking for things. It's like a long-term strategy for people that they have to commit to. And so for Pumpkin Care, what were the expectations that you set up front? Obviously, you hit it out of the park for them, but what did you tell them up front of what you should expect in month 1, 2, 6, 12?
Yeah. So typically what I say is you won't see any results for at least 5 to 6 months. And I always try to set that expectation because it's just the truth. What you typically see in months 2, 3, 4, after you've posted blogs and new pages on the site, is an increase in impressions. And that means you started to rank number 30 or number 20 for a query, but you don't rank on page 1 and you don't rank in the top 3. So you're not getting any clicks. You're not going to physically feel that as a business. And I try to be overly transparent about that, so much so that when I was starting Grow, I launched my own blog called The Word Counter. And it's a grammar blog. So I explain English grammar concepts, like the difference between there versus there and the different ways to spell it. And I show my own data on our pitches. And I say, look, this is how long it took me to build my own website. And here's the results now. So that they understand that this is not a sales tactic. It's just the truth of how long it takes to build up a new website. And I always try to almost speak to the point where I turn them away. And then I know that if they still come back and they really want to work with us, that they really get it. They understand it's a long-term investment, and they know that, because I have my own site, I don't recommend any tactics that I don't employ on my own website, and I can prove it. And I think that's why people trust us to do work for them, because they see that I put my own money into this.
Talk about Ritual and what you did with them?
Yeah. So Ritual, it was my second consulting client ever. I'm still very close with one of their co-founders. Her name is Lauren Kleinman. And they really put me and Grow on the map because they were one of the first direct-to-consumer e-commerce companies that raised considerable amount of money. And their branding is incredible. The imagery, the website, everything they've done is really like top tier. And I think they're well respected in their niche. And so once the word got out that we were doing SEO for Ritual and it was working really well, warm referrals started to come in like crazy. And we started to get them to rank in the top 3 for prenatal vitamins and women's multivitamin. And how long does it take for prenatal vitamins to work, and things of that nature. And, if you do right by that team, they're really willing to publicly sing your praises. So they've given us testimonials and they've talked about it in marketing communities with other growth marketers, and they will take any reference call that that I might have for a potential client, and they've been real champions of the work that we've done together.
So how did you end up meeting them?
I was doing free work for a friend of mine, like general growth marketing consulting, and just friend of mine wanted to help, and he called me after we worked together for a month or two, and he said, "Hey, I know a woman named Lauren. She's looking for SEO. She works at a company called Ritual, which I had never heard of. Would you be interested in working with them? They'll pay you." And I said, "Of course." And so that's been working for free like that. I started the call with talking about, doing stuff with no expectation of something in return. That's where all the gold is in my career experience. I did my friend a solid. I didn't ask him for $1. And then he came and repaid me by doing that, which then led me to all these other things. And
do any articles stick out, Kevin, from Ritual that are popular?
Let me take a look.
I'm looking at the website, and it's kind of cool. Obviously, the future of health is clear, and you can see the clear pills. So they have some amazing imagery and branding on there for sure.
Right. They rank number 3 for water soluble vitamins. That's something that's important to people. They rank number 1 for prenatal vitamins versus a regular multivitamin. People want to know what's the difference, between that. They rank number 1 for how long to take prenatal vitamins. They rank number 2 for can prenatal vitamins make you sick? So really, it's a lot of, again, questions related to their main products. And that's really what's driving, people search that before they even know that Ritual exists. And then Ritual has the answer, and it's like, oh, by the way, we sell prenatal vitamins. Would you like to buy it from us?
I love it.
That's the art of content marketing.
I love it, Kevin. So I have one last question before I ask it. Let's point people to check out more, learn more. They can go to grow.com. That's GR0.com and learn more. So last question is, well, I'm sorry. I lied. I have 2 quick last questions. So one last question is, I'd love to hear software or tools that you love. People out there always geek out on different software and tools you probably internally or externally use a bunch. I'm curious what you recommend people look at. And maybe it's an app on your phone, productivity wise, but I'd love to hear a few of those.
In the SEO world, by far, in a way, my number 1 tool is Ahrefs. That's the tool that I've been using on this call to help determine where different blog posts rank. I can look at any website on the internet and get a general directionally correct view of how much site traffic they get and where it comes from. And then let me see, my friend Abe Burns has an email newsletter. He's a VC at Ashton Kutcher's old fund in Los Angeles, and it's called Headlines. And he does a brief synopsis of all the news that transpired in that given day for those people like myself that can't read super well. And so I love that. That's not really a tech product, but those 2 I think are great. Things that I use on a daily basis to keep up to date on things and do research.
Very cool. The domain.
Yes.
Was that the domain you started with, or did you have a domain and then you found it and got it? Is there a story behind getting the domain Grow?
It was, first of all, I really appreciate the respect level that you have for that, because that's real marketers and entrepreneurs know how hard it is to get domains like that. But this one was relatively easy on the scale of, 1 to 10. It was probably a 3. We were able to negotiate with the buyer. I think we bought it for less than $5,000. And my partner and I, we wanted something where I love brands where you hear the name and you understand generally what they do. So for example, with Lyft, you probably can conceptualize that they take you places. Can you give me a lift? And with this, we want to grow people's brands. We want to grow their traffic. We want to grow their revenue by any means necessary. And we thought that the, GROW was not available. That was like $1 million. GR0 was not available. Every other manipulation we tried was not available, but the 0 was, available to be negotiated. And so we just went with it, and we thought, hey, 3-letter domain, we're super cool. We both loved that, rare to see. And it generally jives with our overarching mission statement. We're in growth. We want to grow companies.
I love it.
It's stuck.
Kevin, thank you. Everyone check out GR0.com, learn more. And I want to be the first one to thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Kevin.
much. It was a pleasure to be on this here with you. Thank you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.